Welcome back. In this video, we'll continue building our rollerball game by putting on some materials, dealing with the lighting, and maybe getting into some programming here. So first things first, I should have mentioned at the end of the last video, we should always make sure we save. And you can see at the moment there's a little star right here indicating that it hasn't been saved. And so once you've saved that scene, right, so you got game here, we saved it earlier, and there's a little star there as well, we can just hit File and Save Scene. And once you've done that, that star disappears, indicating that the scene's been saved. All right, now at the moment we've got gray on gray, which isn't the most appealing of appearances here. So let's add a little bit of color. Before we do that, let's just talk a little bit about organization. And right on here, we've got create. So we've got a project, create, and then we got our assets. And at the moment, you can see in our assets, which you can see as a folder, we've got a folder called scenes. And then we have our game that's actually outside of that folder. Game is a scene here. So let's just click and drag it and put it in to our scenes folder. Now, organization is an important thing when you're creating a game, especially as your games get a little bit more complex. In our cases here, it's going to be pretty simple, not that big of a deal, but it's good to get into the habit. And so what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to create another folder, and then we're going to put our material that we're going to create in that. So right under create here, you can create a folder. And since I was clicked on the assets, it puts that folder in the scenes, in the assets one, so right beside the scenes there. So I'm just going to call this materials. And once I do that, you can see that I've got now two folders in my asset folder, so two subfolders there. And I can click on that. There's obviously nothing in there, but we're going to put a material in there. So I'm going to go create, and down, where is it here? There it is, material. So we're going to create a new material, and give it a name. So I'm just going to call it ground. Okay, because we're going to make this one for our ground here. So it's called ground. Notice this is not in the game. It's not a game object. It's just an asset. And so to change the color, so once you create a material, it's this default color. There's lots that you can do and you can play around with this, but the simplest way to change a color is just click on here and it opens up this little color wheel. Okay, and you can choose the RGB, how much red, green, and blue you want, or just sort of work your way through here. So let's make a ground. So I'm just going to give it maybe, it's up to you. I don't care. Make it blue. Okay, so I can sort of choose the blue that I want. And again, don't fret, whatever color you think is appropriate. And there we've got this nice sort of blue. Now you notice it's not on any of the game objects yet. And there's obviously I need to apply it. So what I can just do a couple ways is I can just drag it in. Simple as that. And so now I just dragged my material onto my game object and it's turned blue. Okay, let's make another one for the ball. Up to you. So I'm just going to make sure I'm on that folder again. So it'll go automatically into the materials. Create material. Whatever color you want. I guess I could have given it a name. I'll give it a name after. I'm going to keep it sort of this red color. Lovely. All right. And once I've done that, so I can close that up, I can give it a name. So I'm going to call that player color. So just player. And then I'm just going to drag it onto the player. Okay, I can do it that way. Another way I can do it is if I actually click on the player over here, you can see that there's a default material there. I think, yeah, I can just sort of throw it on there. Maybe not. No, I guess I can't. I think maybe I could, can I remove it? No, I can't even remove it. I guess the easiest way is just drag it right on there. Okay, so now I've got a blue ground and a red ball. All right, so colors don't matter. Once you've got that done, we'll just talk a little bit about the lighting. So we do have a light here, so I can click on it. Okay, I just zoomed out a little bit there and clicked on the light. And again, there's all these settings here. So you could change the sort of color of the light and so on. Feel free to play around. I'm not going to go through every single one and talk about it, but you can play around and see what happens. One thing we will do though is play with the rotation. I think it's on the y-axis here. if I rotate it, let's see, maybe not too much. Oh yeah, so you can see as the light sort of changes its position, right, its rotation, you can get some different shadows there. So again, it's not a big deal. Depending on your situation, you might just want to sort of see what it looks like with different rotations on it. Oh, there, the x-axis is changing it more. So all I'm doing, just to show you here, is if I bring my mouse over the X, a little double arrow appears, and then if I left click and then just drag to the left or drag to the right, I can move it. And you can actually see that sun moving up and down there. And so whatever you think looks good, I'm not going to worry too much. You know, you can make your scene a little darker, probably not too dark, give it more drama there, whatever you think works out well. Okay, so I'm just going to probably leave it like something like that. That's pretty good. Okay, so don't worry too much about that, but just so you know, you can do that. Moving it will actually not affect it, okay? So if you put it higher, if you move it to the left, you move it to the right, it doesn't affect it with a directional light. So just, you can even just move it off the screen sort of there, so that it's not sort of in the way. It doesn't do anything. Okay, so that gives you the colors, right? Adding materials. And so a little bit different. You have to create a material and then apply it and then playing around with the light there. So I think we'll just end this video here. And when we come back, we'll get into the coding. We'll just make it easier to be on a separate video there. All right. So like I said, play around with the colors. If you want to change the colors up, that's fine. Play with some of the settings, play with the light. That's all part of the learning, right? I want you to sort of experiment because, like I said, I could talk myself, sit here for hours and hours and explain every little button, but it doesn't make much sense. You can sort of figure out how it works and experiment there. All right, but when we come back, we will get into the coding of it. All right, see you then. Make sure you save.